Hello. Welcome to Nerdist Book Club. I'm Hector Navarro, and joining me as always are Maude, Garrett, and Rachel Heine. What's up, y'all?
Hi, actually, I just realized before we went on, we were talking about Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I'm drinking out of a Beetlejuice mug.
Let's just jump right into it. First question for everybody in the chat. What's
Jumping
your
the line.
favorite? Let's just jump in the line right off the bat. What is your favorite Tim Burton directed movie? Go ahead and throw that in the chat.
Batman. Oh, he
In
did
case you've
ages ago before we even started. Yeah, he's good.
what? Who did what?
Lee.
Oh, Lee
Nerdist.
did it?
Oh, yeah. All
Oh,
right.
wonderful. Oh,
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody watching for joining us. If you've never joined us before, this is Nerdist Book Club. We like to talk about books, normally geeky books, nerdy books, with normally some wine or something to drink. What are y'all drinking tonight? Anything special?
Drinking a sparkling white.
What is that
Drinking
I
a
see, Maude? Is that a
sparkling claw.
claw of some kind?
Mango.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, we got a lot of great comments in the chat already. We have a Beetlejuice from Brad, Edward Scissorhands from Stargirl. We've got Edward Scissorhands from Tamaranian. Frankenweenie says, Shy Little Violet says Frankenweenie. And there's also some lovely comments from earlier. Ben B55.55 says, by the way, Nick Podell, who does the audiobooks, is superb.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay.
It took me ages to get into it the first time I listened to it. I wasn't loving it, but
Not
I'm getting
loving
there.
it. I'm not loving it, and I had to.
I also don't care for Beetlejuice.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think those are connected, but continue, Rachel. Go ahead, continue.
I'm not the internet. If you don't like something I like, that's totally fine.
Just wait for the
How-
chat to catch up.
How novel.
Well,
How
hopefully-
novel.
Oh no. Tim Burton did not direct Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's
in the chat.
right. That was
Henry
Henry Selick.
Yep.
Selick, who also did James and the Giant Peach.
And Coraline.
And Coraline. But I do believe that Burton directed Frankenweenie.
Yes,
Which may
and he
have
also
been, yeah.
came up with he wrote it.
Right.
with
Did the
Danny
art,
Elfman.
produced it, everything like that. But thanks for pointing that out, because we got to give some love to Henry Selick. I'm sure
Love
gets
Henry
a
Selick.
little overshadowed with the Tim Burton love. Anyway, we're back. If you're just joining us, like I was saying, welcome. We'd like to read a nerdy book and then be interactive with you all at home. So we really appreciate you joining us, because right now we are reading Patrick Rothfuss's The Name of the Wind.
I know it's so heavy and so big that if you get it wrong, it will break your wrist.
That's right. So we can just go ahead and jump in. We are reading chapters. What are we talking about today? Chapters what to what? Chapters something to 30.
17 to 32
through 32. 17 through 32. And before we start, I want to get everybody's take on what you thought of this section. Rachel, why don't you start? What'd you think of this section?
So I did try to listen to, because I have the audiobook and Kindle, so it goes back and forth. You can go back and forth. And so I was trying the audio book, and it was very hard for me to concentrate, especially with all of the stories. Yeah, so I went back to the ebook, and that was a lot better and helped me kind of understand, because as I was listening, and I have generally sometimes I have a hard time focusing anyway, and we'll go back 30 seconds, back 30 seconds, back when I look. And so I was doing that a lot. So I switched back to the ebook. So I liked this section. It kind of dragged a little bit, I thought, compared to the first section. But I also, once we caught up to the last couple of chapters, I think that the stories as we hear them are going to be more important, and I like thinking about what that might mean. So
okay,
I liked the first section better, but I think we're going to the academy, so it feels like it's going to get a little bit more jazzy.
Is that where we're going? Probably, right? Okay, well, that's funny you say that, Rachel, because I actually thought that this section was a little zippier than the first section. I think because I got used to what this book was, which was I kind of settled in, and I was like, all right, this is going to be this guy's literal life story. Dude remembers details of a Tuesday when he was 7 years old to a Wednesday when he was 15 years old. Like, just remembers the most incredible details. This storyteller that's weaving this tale, Quoth.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I couldn't either. It would all be BS. In fact, I was catching up with my mom this week and like thought I knew one of those famous stories from her childhood where you tell it all the time and you're like, oh, this is what happened. Let me tell you this thing. And I was talking to her about it and she was like, oh no, that's not what happened. And I'm like, what? And that still happens to me to this day. I have a terrible memory, but my mom will be like, oh no, I was there. That's not what happened. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Well,
And
also the way that memory works can
yeah,
really just completely change your perception. You
yeah,
know, the more times you think about a memory, the more it changes. There are different
absolutely.
ways that people, I'm fascinated
So
by
so
how we
I
think about
I
memory.
doubt that the name of the wind will ever pull a golden compass and reveal that it's somehow connected to our real universe.
Mm.
In which case, Patrick Rothfuss could compare Kvothe to a normal person in their memory and be like, Kvothe is so incredibly smart. He's able to recall. It's all a fantasy realm. These are fantasy humans. So I have to give them the credit of like, okay, if this is like he's like Strider, he's like more skilled and smarter and more awesome than any other normal human would be my reference point. But anyway, once I settled in, I liked this section more because I just got to a point where I was just like, okay, man, let's hear it. Tell me your story without feeling like, but where is this going? Where is this going? What's the end goal? And when I sort of let that go, and when the story found sometimes convoluted, but sometimes organic ways to give me backstory, I went, okay, this is how this is going to pay off. We had the entire prequel history in this section, the whole Star
Mhm.
Wars prequels with Anakin Skywalker, except it was the big bad, and it was a secret stealth origin story that was told because another character told it, and I was like, okay, this is going to pay off. This is going to pay off. So,
Mhm.
so I felt like I think the section just worked for me more than last week's opening section. Maude, what did you think rereading this for the umpteenth time?
This part of the book obviously is very necessary, but I just know where we're about to go.
Mm.
And I know that I prefer other portions of his life. This one as well, Rach, I agree with you, especially in an audio sense. And that is, there were two really, really long-winded, in-depth stories for exposition to
Yeah.
talk about sort of how the God kind of came about with that sort of like Mary and Jesus undertones in there.
Yeah.
Very, very religious based, but then also, talking about, Lord Halifax or Haliax,
Mhm.
and how he came about. Halifax, isn't that Gandalf's horse?
Yeah.
That's Shadowfax.
Shadowfax. Yeah.
There
How
is
do
a
Cool.
I know
Halifax,
that?
isn't there?
I'm sure internet's
Somewhere.
going to tell us. A
People
Halifax,
let us
probably.
know. We can't.
I'm dropping some Halifax. So for me, yeah, just like
Cheers
hearing
to
those
that. Cheers to that one,
long-winded,
Maude.
thank you. Those long-winded stories, I got not necessarily bogged down, but I was
Ah,
like chomping at the bit. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. But so
um,
I
oh,
accidentally just two chapters.
That's okay.
Just two chapters. Each of
Yeah.
these
We've
chapters takes
already read the book,
four.
so it's
Well, actually, okay. To be fair, two chapters is just like 10 pages. Like those are those little baby chapters. You're right. First of all, I have to address this. Clever Girl in the chat said, quote, Ben's training has given me a memory so clean and sharp, I have to be careful not to cut myself. Is that a real
Yeah.
quote in the book? He
Yeah.
says that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. There's your shut up, Hector. There's your explanation for how he has such a good memory. I don't know if I buy it.
also
This
that's such a beautiful
Isn't it great?
turn of phrase. I love that.
Yes, it is. It's very beautiful. Yes, it is very beautiful.
There's a few of them, and you'll be
Um,
listening going, oh,
Yeah, and you're like,
oh.
"Oh,"
yeah.
or I'm highlighting somewhere. I'm like,
Ooh,
Yeah.
words.
It just tastes nice. Yeah.
We already talked about this last time. Language is a love
Sexy.
language.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Language is a love language. That's right.
beautiful. Yeah, bitches love.
Oh, also, are we going to gloss over the fact, and this is something that I can't believe I forgot. So I was listening to it and I was like, oh my God. Our boy Kvothe tried to light someone and set them on fire. Okay.
Well,
Didn't
he's
he-
also he's the bloodless, right?
Oh, I know why that is though.
No. I don't think that that's from that specific thing, but I mean, we're seeing there's a reason that there are all these stories about him, and that he, whether or not he's he should be being hunted or tracked down, if it's this the Tellin like inquisition of these like religious zealots stalking him or something. We don't really know who's after him, but you see this like sweet sense. I do like the character development we're seeing. And again, reading the stories, I was like, okay, now I can like piece. I'm also just a visual learner when something is complicated, but that he's this like very precocious and clever, curious boy, and could do anything if he put his mind to it. And then he experiences such a trauma and is so enmeshed in his grief that he, and some of the descriptions early on in this section that we read describe the gates of sleep, the gates of death, all of these ways you can basically just shut yourself off. And so for the 3 years that he's, this little street urchin child, he's asleep. He's not practicing anything. He's not playing music. He's not really even thinking clearly. He's kind of living.
Trying to survive.
He's just in survival mode. And some of that includes not rescuing someone when the boy he was probably would have.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're seeing how this trauma is, he when he wakes up, he's potentially going to the academy, and we'll see that smart boy again, but there's this kind of feral element to him now that he maybe wouldn't have had before.
Well, I mean, before he had academic smarts, like he was just learning. Now he's got street smarts.
Which can, but it's not even street smarts too. It's like, it is survival mode, and it is, if someone is in trouble, I'm gonna look out for me first. And I
would say that would count as street smarts. I would think.
Yeah.
I think that what you're talking about, Rachel, is like trauma infused decision making, and I feel like that could be, you could classify that as street smarts depending on what the circumstances is. Yeah.
Hey, sorry to interrupt real quick, but
You
a clever girl lost her old cat today. So just a cheers to the kitty.
Cheers to the kitty.
Old cat makes it sound like it lived quite the life, which is spectacular. But I just wanted to,
knowing how lovely
cheers.
Clever Girl is, I'm sure that cat had a fantastic life. So I was a real lucky cat. But
it's
cheers to kitty.
It's so hard, even when you like even when your pet is getting up there in years. It's really sad. I'm sorry.
I know. I had to clean some poop out of my cat's butt the other day. And even then I'm like, man, this is the worst, but man, I'm going to miss you so much. You stupid animal. I love you so much. You dumb thing.
I actually think that too, even though my sister,
Maude. Oh, now Maude's picking up Zelda.
Zelda gives Scooby, come here. Yeah.
Grab.
Oh, just a faint cat poo smell just waft in. From
good smell. Great. I got to address some other comments in the chat. M the Cartographer was confirming Halifax, the city in Canada. That's probably what you were thinking, Maude. Halifax is a city in Canada. It's so cute. We can hear her growling. It's super cute.
Murder mystery setting.
She makes so much noise.
Oh, the little grumblers.
Okay, you're too noisy. Sorry.
Miss Necromancer said, I like this section more. NYX Wing, someone telling a story within a book. And Tim and Daisy, to try to go back off of what Rachel was talking about, memory. Exactly. Memory isn't like a Google Doc. You rebuild memories every time you think about them. It's wild. So, but according to the lore of this book, this street smart and book smart guy now has like the most perfect recall. So maybe we can take it all at face value, or maybe we can't. I don't know. Anyway,
it's not, I feel like, I believe that he remembers everything because he is this like basically super powered, super brain type dude, but I don't necessarily believe that he's telling the story yet, because we
accurately.
have really,
with the
narrator.
I always thought that when he was able to taught to compartmentalize his mind, I always thought that he kind of literally was able to lock things away.
Oh, like the Mind Palace or the Mind. Aren't there two? There's one in Hannibal and there's one in Sherlock.
Oh, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Just able to recall everything. Yeah. And just commit it to memory. So I
Mhm.
get those sorts of vibes from it. He's kind of like if Sherlock was a bard.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I also think that there's the compartmentalizing of information and memory, and there's the compartmentalization of his feelings and his trauma and what he's doing.
Holy.
Like,
The way that Patrick
Why?
Rothfuss talks about mental health,
Mhm.
depression, and even suicide
Yep.
is really, really fascinating in this book. And I'd love to chat with him about that, because talking about the types of not madness, but he was just like, there's a type of grief that can, wreck your day. There's a type of grief that can, you can shut it away as a way to cope. And then there's a type of grief where it's easier to go crazy than to deal with that. And it's just so fascinating saying which ones he was flitting between, but never let himself sort of lose himself. But remember, he's like a 13-year-old boy, and he's just having to shut down, because if he feels, he's done and he needs to live.
And he shuts down all of the attributes and memories and things that remind him of Ben or remind him of his family, so that he is making kind of reckless decisions once he's in what's the city called?
Tabian.
But he, even when you're thinking why didn't he just actually get more strings for his lute and play for money? He's so talented, he could have done that. Why didn't he go find Ben? And it's because he's so shut down, he can't. It's just this grief blinders. And I just thought I agree with you, Maude. It was written so well to show it's not even a conscious thing. It's not something he can turn back on again until someone wakes him up.
Do you guys think that because this is a modern fantasy story written within this decade, within the last decade, that it has an advantage over classic stuff like Lord of the Rings, where even in Lord of the Rings, people can read that text and go, oh, this character is suffering from trauma, mental illness, PTSD, but those kinds of stories and books and those writing eras will never really go into that, but something like this can be aware of it. So it's so that Rothfuss might be kind of like, no, it's definitely what you think it is. This is depression, and I may not explicitly have a character stop and go, I am depressed, but still use the sort of fantasy landscape to explore. Do you think that the fact that it's that modern book is giving it an advantage over other types of fantasy stories?
I think it helps with the depths of the why, but I think no matter what, we had the what before. What happens when you face this? Oh, you get sad and you get really, really down. The emotions were still there, but now we have a deeper understanding of the why.
And there's a complexity to the way that we talk about mental health that you can weave into a story that is going to have more, like Maude said, depth to back it up. But I think, you can interpret that in past, fantasy series. Oh, hey, you want to come up here? I don't think he will. He might though. Anyway, I agree with you, Maude. Sorry, I got distracted by my
I think I agree too, and I think I was kind of maybe trying to get that answer out of Maude as it's just another. It might be another reason why it's your favorite, why you love it so much. I think because of that very mature understanding of that kind of subject matter and the way that it's infused in the book. In the chat, Darian Bahari says, Quoth's in survival mode. Everything else is secondary. Denise Hasselroth said, a favorite line, Travis never saw the clothes, only the child inside them.
Yeah, I loved that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was really, really nice.
What?
So let's go into it. Who wants to start
really
with...
quick, actually, Miss Necromancer made a real great point in the chat right now happening live, comparing this to Throne of Glass, which was I think the last book that we'd just done. or the one before, I'm not even sure anymore.
Oh,
But
did we do that one and then Mexican Gothic? I can't remember which one we just did.
No, we
It might have
did
been.
Throne of Glass, and then we did.
what was last? Oh, Star Wars.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
What's
just
the
talking
time?
about trauma, one of the things that really bothered me with Throne of Glass was that this woman has been serving in the mines
Yeah.
with no chance of survival, being brutally beaten, and like that is trauma inducing, and there's no light, and what people are dying around her. She's trying to escape, but this is where you go to die. And I think that she would have had such a like gnarly deep trauma, but then as soon as we kind of cut to her leaving it, it was just like, hi, I'm back to normal and I'm sassy and everything's great and da da da. And I just was like, that wasn't resonating with me. I'm like, that just doesn't make sense. Yeah, right.
In the other books, because I agreed with you, even though I felt like they were hinting at it in the first book, but I do think that as you go on in the books, it gets compounded and is sort of implied that her way of surviving was to, again, turn that off and just say, I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
I'm going to get through this day. But I do feel like it's explored more as you get through the series, but that's just.
Yeah.
Also, I want to say, while I was listening to the book, when Trappist is saying, what? Did anyone else think of Archimedes the Owl from Disney's Sword in the Stone?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I didn't,
He's
but
my
yes.
favorite. I love him, where he's like, who, what? And then when he laughs, when he finally like breaks his like serious face and he just falls. It's one of my favorite scenes in and especially in like a classic Disney movie. Anyway, just wanted to see if anyone else thought of that.
That's
Sword in
really
the Stone
funny.
is an all-timer. Sword in the Stone's
Classic.
great. It's great.
Hey,
Looking forward to the Disney remake, live action remake, where it focuses on the poor girl squirrel that he broke her
I was heart.
just
gonna say,
messed
give
up.
her an origin story. Chicoot.
So cute. Too cute. Too good for this world. Okay, I'm going to start us off. I want to talk about the section right after his parents die in the forest. We can go back to the beginning of this section.
Okay.
And then we can get into each one of these sections afterwards. But just as a recap, here's what happens. After the devastating story of how Kvothe lost his parents and first met the Chandrian, we return... Chandrian?
It's not a soft, it's a hard.
We return to the frame narrative in the inn where Bast and the Chronicler are becoming fast friends. What is it? What's funny?
No, Rach is thirsty.
What's going
No,
on?
I just can't wink, and I wanted to wink at Mom.
Oh, got it.
So
I can't wink either.
I know. Can't do it.
I can wink. It's great. Why are y'all winking at each other?
Because she said soft CH, not hard.
Oh, got it. That's what it was. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
I'm 12.
That's all right. That's okay. That literally is what she said, so I'll allow it. That's fine. So then what happens is Kvothe goes a little mad alone in the forest when he's a little kid. He's tucking his grief away in the deep recesses of his mind so he can heal. He has surreal dreams and manages to fend for himself over the summer, not a winter, because he says he would have died later on reflection. He obsessively plays his father's lute as the strings break one by one, and he masters 765 strings, a nod to one of his future names, which is Five Fingers. What's his future name? Five Fingers? Is that what it is? Anyway, but it's starting to get cold.
I was going to ask you.
I don't remember either. It's starting to get cold, and eventually he sets off to find better shelter. So, who wants to take over? He gets to Tarbean.
I can do it.
Go
New
for it, Maude.
life in Tarbean. Kvothe makes it to Tarbean and begins his life on the streets. Kvothe instinctually rejects any kind of help, save begging for coin. He meets I always thought it was Trappist, a Mother Teresa-esque character who cares for sick boys. Usually for the midwinter celebration, professionals are hired to don demon masks to enact the story of Telu. But in Tarbean, they sell demon masks to just about anyone. Begging on the street, Kvothe is badly beaten to within an inch of his life, but rescued by a man wearing an Incanus mask. Incanus. Interesting details, though. Incanus was the character that his father used to play in the troupe, and the masked demon is actually a good guy. Is this foreshadowing?
Oh, yeah, Bast. Interesting. Okay.
Was that Bast?
Well, just the foreshadowing of like he makes friends with a demon.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was also
He was
thinking
a good guy.
as we're going through the story, and especially in this section, the origin stories, it does feel like you're getting this view of the of Haliax and the Chandrian that may be an interpretation. We're talking about, like, I can't wait to talk more about religion, but so I just thought that was interesting that everything is pointing towards the Chandrian and Haliax being bad, and
Sneaky.
I don't know, seems a little too simple, but who knows.
The masking Canis gives him coin to get food and shelter, but Quoth instead slips away to huddle in his secret place. Sick with fever, he seeks out trappers to help him recover.
Okay, Rachel, you want to take the story of Telu?
Yes, I will. Telu. I also want to, I just thought it was really, it broke my heart in terms of, Kvothe's grief, that he goes to the inn and he gets a little bit of food and these girls want to help him. He's like bleeding all over the place, and he just kind of runs. He can't even accept any kind of kindness from anyone. And that just made me really sad. Because
also police brutality and classism.
100%. Okay, so the story of Telu. So the story evokes the New Testament of the Christian Bible, in my opinion, with a God who makes the world and his son, Telu, through an immaculate conception. Telu sacrifices himself to save the world, returning to heaven as a more powerful and compassionate God. So
thanks to not Deb. What's her name?
What? His mom's name is
Deb?
His mom?
Yeah.
No, the neighbor was Deb.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking like, Deb.
Yeah. It's tough, man.
Maybe it's Dave. I don't know.
No,
but so early on in this story, when Telu reveals himself as the son of God and he grows very quickly, which reminds me of, for my Christopher Pike fans out there, one of the last vampire books where a vampire gets pregnant and then her like demon baby, it's great, grows really, really quickly.
Or the upcoming M. Night Shyamalan movie, which looks crazy and dumb. It looks kind of dumb. We'll see.
And dumb, but I'm gonna watch it. And so he reveals himself as the son of God and draws sort of a line in the sand. On one side, this is such a like weird deal. On one side is pain and punishment, and on the other is pain and punishment and Telu. And I noticed that everyone who crosses the line gets a new name. There's a lot of naming in all of these stories. Only 7 people refuse to cross the line. They're not described as the Chandrian, I don't think, but it seems like the story is alluding to them. Telu strikes 6 of them down with iron, but one was a demon in human form. Is that correct? I want to make sure.
I think so. Yeah. Yep. That's what I recall.
Yep.
And then Telu travels the world, destroying demons, all of them except Incanus. Finally, Telu catches Incanus and binds him to an iron wheel in the fire, and eventually holds him to the wheel and burns with him, leaving his mortal body and returning to heaven. And
so dramatic.
Yeah, extremely dramatic. And
I did like, and someone actually quoted it earlier, which was the whole, well, what would you be like if your neighbors were demons or something like that? Someone quoted it earlier, but I liked that point. I liked that, the humanity where it's like, you must give grace and compassion for all people because, how can anyone sort of be perfect all the time with demons for neighbors? I don't know. Yeah. I liked that part. And it was like, again, it was Telu being like, oh my gosh, you're better than I am. And I'm supposed to be a god. And you're
exactly. And what's interesting just from, if you've read the Bible, which I went to Catholic school, so I have, and it's long.
Is that going to be a future book for Nerdist Book Club? The Holy Bible?
I'm not reading it again. Huh? I'm not reading it again. Right. I've read it twice.
I'm not religious, right?
I'm not religious.
Yeah.
I'm not religious.
Okay.
I just went to Catholic. I was just sent to Catholics. I find religion fascinating as a way to look at human nature and oral histories and storytelling and you know, all of that stuff. But no, I'm not religious. I would say I'm mostly atheist with like a tiny bit of agnostic where I'm like maybe, but I do find it
not shitting on anyone who is religious. If that is your thing, more power to you.
Yeah, of course not. Just yes, agreed. As long as you don't hate people for who they are,
weaponize the religious parts and pick and choose so that you can hide behind that in acts of hate. Yes.
Yeah. So, but what I found interesting was, you know, in the Old Testament, which is also, you know, it depends. Lots of different religions kind of draw inspiration or parts from the Bible. Old Testament God, kind of vindictive and gets jealous and a little petty. And fun fact, I wrote an essay about God as a jealous lover in the Psalms of the Old Testament, because he like gets real jealous if you worship false gods, and they're written like angry love poems kind of. Anyway,
I am your only God.
That's
quite fun.
like an emo, like damaged on your forehead. But in the New Testament, it's a lot more about like rebirth and, you know, believing in people and all of that kind of stuff. And this Telu, even though the story seems kind of Jesus New Testament, the vibe to me felt more Old Testament. And the later stories that we get into as well, I was like,
yeah, it's interesting.
More and more these good guys don't sound like good guys to me.
I don't have that much frame of reference for like real world history to kind of be able to point to and go, oh, that reminds me of this, that reminds me of that. But it did leave me that sort of creation myth, or not the creation myth, but the sort of Jesus analogy that was happening did make me feel like, oh, I bet you there's going to be room for that to be explored later. I bet you there's going to be ways for other characters in this world to like interpret that or something. So, because
There was
what were you going to say?
There was a big foreshadowing, and I want
go.
to know if either of you may have picked up on a lump drop of where book 2 is heading.
A lump drop. Interesting. That doesn't sound appealing. It was literally, I gotta be honest.
In this particular story?
Or in the other one? In this one, Maude is saying in this one. Okay, we're getting into playing charades. Maude is gonna give us a clue. It's
there's the whole wheel iconography and why they seem to have like a lot of the, you know, because that's part of it, like the cross. It's a wheel.
Are you referring to how when this story was over, Kvothe like went back to his little home base and was thinking about it and was like, wait a minute, if that story's true, then that means this and that means this. Okay, you're not talking about that. All right. I thought that was interesting.
I know now.
Yeah. I guess we just got to read 500 more pages and then we'll know, Rachel. And then we'll know.
There is foreshadowing in this section of where book 2 will be thoroughly explored.
In this section or in that story?
In this section. He's kind of like piecing things together about something that was mentioned in the first portion that he starts thinking about in this portion is where we will be definitely exploring.
So I got the vibe foreshadowing wise that, and we can get into the next stories, but that the story of Haliax, his origin story, and Telu are obviously two different versions of that story. And I also get the feeling that Scarpy is way older than he seems. And he seems pretty old, but he kind of makes references like he may have known Telu personally. And so I think that the actual, what I find really interesting too about religion is, you know, what were the real stories that inspired you know, some of the biblical tales, and how did they evolve over the years? Were they actually, you know, gods, or were they real people who had messages and things like that? So maybe it's more delving into the Telu Haliak's point of view.
Jamaica Hayes in the chat says,
I
"Oh,
think
are
it's
we
right
reading?"
based on Maude's face? Sorry, continue, Hector.
Jamaica Hayes in the chat says, "Oh, are we reading book 2 then?" As just a little side note on the foreshadowing that is happening in this story, because I'm reading it for the first time, and I'm not as smart as Rachel Heine, who's reading it for the first time as well, I am not really looking to that stuff as things that can help me figure out or guess or appreciate the story as it comes later. I look at that stuff really truly and I go, this is payoff for reading the book a second time. This is payoff for return visits.
Sure.
You know, versus it almost reminds me a little bit of the WandaVision and Mandalorian and all of the speculation that happens to current popular TV shows. There's a part of me that really loves guessing and figuring that stuff out and engaging in that. But there's another side of it where people will straight up be like, I saw this leak on this actor's Instagram. So that means this, right? 3 episodes from now, that means this, right? And I'm like, at this point, are you trying to spoil the story for yourself? Are you like, is the
on your own time?
Yeah. Is the enjoyment you get out of it, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's like, I'm not in it just for the Wikipedia summary. You know what I'm saying? I'm in it for the journey.
I agreed with your thread too. And it's like, I won't be, it's just a tangent, new and different for us. But
now remember, Maude hasn't seen Maude hasn't seen it yet. Maude hasn't seen it yet.
Wait, I haven't seen what?
WandaVision.
First 4 episodes.
Okay. Can't grief and what happens when you grieve be the point?
Yeah,
I would be fine with that.
Rachel, wait a minute. Are you telling me that this Marvel story centered around a woman doesn't have a male big bad behind everything?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be some hint to the MCU. I don't know.
But that wouldn't make any sense. A female-led story focusing on a woman's emotions and thoughts and feelings? I don't know. There's got to be some interdimensional multiverse comic book shenanigans there, right?
Gross.
I also just want to shout out M, the cartographer, ages ago when talking about Scarpy, said that her favorite quote was when asking if the story was real. I'm paraphrasing because it was way back up in the chat. Right. When paraphrasing, asking if this story was real, Scarpy's response was, all stories are real. But if you mean like this one in particular, then yes.
Yeah. Did it happen? Then yes. Scarpy was like, from a certain point of view.
Yeah,
I did tell you the truth.
And I really do think that that's a big part of it. And it's not, Hector, you are very smart. Don't talk about my friend like that. It's more that I just am like mysteries. And so in my head,
True.
I can't just be like, oh, this is a story. I'm like, well, wait, what does this mean? Why are these have similarities, so they could be telling two sides of this. So, but I do think that, well, let's get into the next story, the next
section. Also, real quick,
because I find those really interesting.
Brad Easton says, as this is my second time reading through it, I agree with Hector in terms of the foreshadowing stuff. Look, one of my favorite movies of all time, Jurassic Park, has a beautiful little bit of foreshadowing that people didn't talk about it until like the internet rewatched it enough times, where Dr. Alan Grant takes the 2 female ends of the seatbelts and just ties it together. Life finds a way. And it's like, if you're watching that movie for the first time, you're not going to sit there and go, oh, he just put 2 female ends together. I bet these dinosaurs are going to multiply. Like, you're not thinking that. That's a treat for when you watch it a second time, a third time. You pick up on that.
Dark, which I will continue to tell everyone to watch forever. The best sci-fi time travel, amazing. It's 3 seasons, and season 3 is wildly different than how it starts out. But if you rewatch it, there are elements of the 3rd season
in the first season,
all over, and I was like,
love that. Cam-Fo1 said, Patrick Rothfuss said, each time you read Name of the Wind, you will catch something else. It's a masterpiece. Did Patrick Rothfuss say it's a masterpiece, or did you add that? Because that would be very, very confident of Patrick to say that. But you got to love that BDE. I tell you what, Jamaica Hayes said, I studied some theology, and even in the Telu story where they highlight the numbers 7, 3, and 40, those numbers are also highlighted in the Bible. I thought that was cool. I'm 100% sure that this book
7 days, 7 cities, 7 demons.
They added that, says Lee. Thank you very much. But you're totally right, Jamaica. I agree. It feels like this book is, even if I'm not aware of where Rothfuss is pulling his research from, it feels like a heavily researched mythology. Do you know what I'm saying? When he's laying
Yeah.
it down, I'm like, okay, yeah. You thought
Yeah, it
all
Makes
this out.
sense. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way that it seems like he's approaching this religion and these stories, that there are what does it say about each story and the point of view
Mhm.
in the story, about like what may have actually happened, because we know that Halifax is real.
Sorry, I've done that
We're
to
just
you.
going to call him Halifax from now on.
It's okay. Oh, maybe it's, did anyone ever watch Muzzy? Was Artax the little green guy? Can someone, do you remember?
Artax was the horse in
Never ending
that was
story.
Atreyu. Artax was the
No,
horse
Atreyu.
in
Artax.
Muzzy,
yeah,
Muzzy
Artax was
in
the
Remember
horse.
Muzzy?
Gondoland?
Okay, I'm
British
totally off.
animated television film from 1986.
Where it teaches you a language? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there was a bunch of Muzzy stuff.
So
Anyway.
So back in the frame narrative, Foyth shares that Scarpi woke him up, and Scarpi is the chronicler's colleague. ...
What?
Yeah.
Maude, why don't you keep going with the story of Lanre? Is that how you pronounce that?
Lanre.
Lanre.
Yes,
Why don't you
Lanre's
tell us
origin
that?
story. Aleph and the Avenging Angels and Foyth's awakening. So let's break down Lanre's original story. The story of Lanre. After 3 years in Tarbean, Foyth realizes that his mind has dulled from the trauma, from survival mode. He hasn't been using it. He's not as sharp. He doesn't have an educator. He's just trying to live. But now he wants to know the story of Lanre, the inspiration for the song that led to his parents' death. He goes to see Scarpi, an old man who tells tales to children in a tavern, a lot like Old Cobb. I like how the exchanging of stories builds exposition here. In a time of endless war, we learn, only 7 cities remain in a vast empire.
Pause real quick. Pause.
Yep.
Maude, can you do your best Cate Blanchett impression when you give us the thank you? This is the opening credits to the film. You know what I'm saying? Please, if you would please, once again from the top, in a time of endless war, as Cate Blanchett from Lord of the Rings. Take it away.
And action.
In a time of endless war, only 7 cities remain in a vast empire. One which is protected by Celatos, the most powerful namer in the land. Lanre is a great warrior who loves Lyra, another powerful namer, and the two protect the other 6 cities of the empire. But after a horrible battle, Lanre dies, killing a horrible beast. In her sorrow, Lyra calls him back from the dead. As the two keep fighting, peace is on the horizon. Meanwhile, Celatos has been naming his city to protect it, and hears a rumor that something has happened to Lanre and Lyra. Eventually, Lanre appears to reveal that Lyra is dead and strip Celatos of his powers, something that he should not be able to do. In his grief, Lanre scoured the world for power as strong as hers to call her back. But with that power comes the galaxy brain / Thanos / Willow / Final Fantasy villain mission.
Up, in Cate Blanchett's voice, Maude, if you please.
Galaxy brain / Thanos. I remember him / Willow / Final Fantasy villain mission to destroy the world to end sadness. Celatos gouges out his own eye to bind him, now Haliax, and curses him and his followers to be consumed by shadow, to know no peace. And so we get an origin story for Haliax and the Chandrian.
Also,
that was perfect.
I
can actually do the Cate.
Yes, you can. You're very talented. I just love because when I was reading his sort of like, I'm going to destroy the world to end all sadness, I was like, okay, we've been here before.
I'm the only one that knows the truth. Okay, Thanos. That was great. When Maude said to know no peace, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling it. This is it. To be consumed by shadow.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of Lord of the Rings vibes when you're getting.
Totally.
Galadriel.
When you're thinking of the history, yeah.
How much of this is really what happened in this world, and how much of it is their own text, their own stories, their own mythology? I mean, is this the type of story? And I guess I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. If you think it is, Mod, you don't have to share. But I'm kind of curious. Is this the type of story where like we will eventually see Kvothe or other characters straight up confront the biggest, most powerful, most important sort of character or events in this universe? Or is this a
I
little bit
think
more?
I think that's kind of probably spoilery, but I
Yeah,
think yes, because it is this like epic tale that feels like a modern legend, much like the ones of Telu. And, we get different timing of, was it 400 years ago? Was it 1,000 years ago?
right.
But we also know that certain characters can live for a very long time.
Mhm.
And uh, it feels like the story, at least the vibe that I'm getting, is that the story might go down the path of much like the frame narrative is about Kvothe telling the real story of his modern legend,
Mhm.
that we're going to get into, Telu and Haliax and what actually happened versus, the religious ideas. And what would be really cool, and I'm not even going to look at Maud's face,
Golden Compass.
is also not even that. I don't know if I believe that, but I do think this section we got story within a story within a story. And it's possible that part of
No.
Kvothe's story is going to
No.
include, Haliax or Telu or someone involved telling the real story of these
What?
characters.
You know what would be amazing
I,
is if
he's
halfway,
telling what they told him.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what'd be amazing is if halfway through this story or in the next book that it just zooms all the way out and Patrick Rothfuss is like, I'm typing this at my computer now. And I have this like, and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We were in
I'm definitely.
the frame of a frame of a frame. Look at Ma trying so hard to be neutral.
I
Look at
know,
her
I
trying
know,
so
I know.
hard.
No one told.
You know what else this reminds me of is whenever you play a Pokemon game and you're a little shitty kid and you leave your mom's house and some old man's like, here's a Pokemon. And then like the very next thing you learn is like, oh, here's this ancient Pokemon that changed time and space. And you go, I'm gonna catch that by the end of this game. Like that's gonna be important to my story. It almost feels
Yeah,
like
yeah.
learning the backstory of this. I'm like, oh, Quoth's gonna fight these guys or like defeat Haliax or something. I don't know. So that's what it feels like. It feels like a Pokemon game.
Well, and
Nerdist knows
also,
what I'm talking about.
yeah, and it also feels like uh the whole point is that we already know that that Haliax killed his parents. So that's his new mission now, is
Right,
to
right.
find him. He's basically, it is like his dark materials, not the golden compass, but overall there is a
Mm.
storyline about, going up to heaven and killing God.
Hmm. Yeah. So what happens after this story, Mod? Did you still have a little section to read here about?
Yeah, Kvothe actually he
Yeah.
starts waking up out of this sort of like survival mode. He starts getting clarity and starts getting sort of like his direction back, because before it was just trying to exist and now he needs purpose.
Hmm.
And the purpose, of course, is avenging his parents and the entire troop and understanding more about who and what the Chandrine are, especially now that he begins to connect the dots between that story, his father's song, and Haliax. He returns the next day for more stories, but is late, and we only get to the end of Scarpy's tale.
If only he could tell a story again, but he can't. It's a one-time thing. Rachel, do you want to take over for the Aleph and the Avenging Angels section?
Sure, and I cannot do a Kate Blanchett voice, so I'm just gonna read it. So after Lanray becomes Haliax, Celitos gathers a band of warriors to go see Aleph, a god, and ask for help. Aleph refuses, so Celitos decides to fight Haliax himself. Aleph seeks angels to become judges to judge men, and some of Celitos's warriors, including Telu, volunteer. Right? Telu was in there?
Maybe. I think
I
so.
glazed this part.
Okay. Someone in the chat, let me know. That may have been my assumption, but Aleph gives them wings and invisibility. So I just have, I know we have a little bit more to cover, but I want to point out a couple of things. One, it seemed to me like this was between this and Lanre's origin story and Telu, that there's a version of the story where Telu is a god. And this version to me gives me the vibe that Telu is an avenging angel. So he's a warrior. Maybe he has power, powers and things like that. But is he a god? And the sort of seeking out the demons and Haliax, it makes me feel like Haliax is also, what's that demon's name? Where is it?
Celios?
No, Celios is hunting down the Haliax. No, the Encanus.
Oh,
that
Encanus.
that the sort of original legend, religious tale about Telu and Encanus is also about Telu, and Haliax is also about Celitas and those characters and these factions. That there's this religious sect that we're seeing where they're kind of intense about it. They're, it's the like Tellan Inquisition. Nobody expects the Tellan Inquisition. Sorry. And then you have the like academy and this like level of knowledge and study, which feels like it stems from Celitas. And then you have sort of the Chandrian and these more evil, immortal or very old type beings. So it feels like they're all the stories are connected, and they all lead to these kind of three major forces: the demons, the religious group, and the academics. That's kind of who
I see.
sympathy.
Okay. This next section, Rachel in the script labeled it Kvothe's Awakening, and I think it's very appropriate. So at that point in the story, they're interrupted by the religious zealots of Tellan, who denounce Scarpi as a heretic. Scarpi is not intimidated and seems to know much more about Telu, Haliax, and the Seven than he's let on. He tells Kvothe to run and calls him by his name, which Kvothe never told him. I missed that detail. That makes a lot of sense. So this guy is some sort of a psychic or knows about Kvothe or something.
Or is so old he knew him.
He knew her from when Kvothe was little?
No, not Kvothe. That he has the power of naming.
Oh,
No,
gotcha.
I thought it felt like he knew Taylor, like he had experienced some of that story.
That's right. But in terms of how did he know Kvothe's name? He has the power of naming.
Yeah, something, because there's naming. There's so much about like controlling characters or
That's right.
elements with
the name of the wind makes you pass out. So this naming metaphorically,
well, if you don't know how to do it, it does.
Right. It metaphorically and literally wakes Kvothe up. He practices sympathy, remembers songs and stories, and vows to seek revenge against Haliax and the Seven. Kvothe also reads the book that Ben gave him, Logic and Rhetoric, cover to cover. Then, like the next day or whenever he's done, he then pawns the book, steals
This is the best section of this part, by the way. This chapter, this moment, so good. This is what kind of fantasy I freaking love.
He steals like just bath and just interacting with all the characters.
A little shit kid taking advantage of people, maybe.
No, he's brilliant.
But
and
gotta survive, Hector.
He has a window of opportunity with two talents, and what he's able to do with that, and like debating, I can either get a bath or get the clothes. But if I get the clothes first, they won't sell them to me. But if I have the bath first, then I have to put the old clothes.
It is like the opening of Ocean's 8, which is my favorite part of that movie, where Sandra Bullock is able to like scam her way into a free hotel room. And free stuff that she says she's returning, but then doesn't have the receipt. So she's like, oh, I'm holding on to it then. Like that whole scam.
Love that, like that kind of stuff with fantasy. The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch is literally fantasy Ocean's 11.
Fantasy Ocean's 11.
So good.
So he pawns this book. He steals some ink and pens. He sets off to the university. And I'm still unsure, but I'm kind of hoping he's able to get the book back at some point. But with his amazing recall and memory, I'm sure he has the damn thing memorized, so he doesn't even need it. But whatever, it's sentimental.
Also, the library at the university has
probably have it.
A billion books.
So after acquiring a bath, clean clothes, and some shoes by like scamming a shop owner to make him think that like he's the son of a rich person or whatever, and like whipping them all into shape.
System against them.
Yeah, I really liked that too. Where like
Yeah, and and I love the fact that he's like, I played a character like this, which means that I have to be like this. Like, I love that stuff.
It
Yeah,
was great.
a Draco Malfoy type.
Got into character. So after that, Kvothe joins a family caravan heading to the academy and meets their teen daughter. Is romance in the air? 2 question marks, says Rachel. I don't know, but final thoughts.
First, like they're gonna be riding
Probably.
together to this place. Also, I have read nothing yet that disproves my idea that there is some sort of woman in that locked magic box.
We're gonna find out from neutral Maude at some point. But
I
final
will die on this hill.
final thoughts from everybody and from the chat. Are you excited to get to the academy? Any theories or clues that you picked up on? And what did you think of this section? We've kind of covered 2 of the 3. Really hit me with, are you excited to get to the academy? That's what I am really, really curious about. So let me know in the chat. Rachel, are you excited? Maude, are you excited to go back to the academy? You kind of hinted that that's your favorite section, maybe?
Guys, it's about to get so good.
Oh.
I'm excited. No, I'm excited
Okay.
for this part. We can talk because it's really an aside. We can talk more in the after show, but in one of the stories, the one about Aleph, I had some thoughts about how the female warriors were described as opposed to their male counterparts.
Oh.
Talk about that.
Also, there's a couple of other things that I've posted back in the chat from the script because the answer that you were seeking is in there twice.
Wait, what?
The answer to what?
The question about where the series is going to go.
Oh, is in the section we just covered,
it's about the origins of the religion then?
The book is about him killing
I was right.
Haliax.
Is it going to be a story within a story? Don't tell me, but I bet it is.
Are we going to zoom
lots
out
of stories within a story in here
and listen to Patrick Rothfuss actually explain the whole thing? Is that what's going to happen? So neutral.
Will you tell? God,
is it all Wanda or someone controlling her, Maude? What's happening?
It's all Wanda.
Also, it has taken all of my self-control not to respond to every single person getting mad online about us reading this book.
So annoying, huh?
You don't have to join the book club if you don't want to.
I nearly wrote back to someone saying that they didn't deserve books. Like the way that they spoke about it, I was like, you don't deserve books if that's how you're going to be.
It's like, I get being frustrated. You're entitled to your feelings, but no one is forcing you to sign on to this and reread the book.
Oh my God. But the entitlement that they had over literature as a whole.
Right. Yeah. And also just like, it just feels very aggressive when it doesn't have to be, which is a lot of the internet, and it shouldn't bother me, but it still does sometimes.
I know it's
I'm
different.
like, no, okay.
Yeah. I know it's different,
like your opinion, man. Like
it sounds to me, some of those comments sound like if somebody were to say, oh, Iron Man, I'm not going to do that until the whole MCU thing is done, until they wrap it up. I'm like, it's an ongoing, nope, I know, but
Dork Lourdes says a great point going, we voted. We voted for the book. We chose it.
That's true.
Like by a lot. You guys
I knew that was going to happen too.
Okay. I don't know what the next section is. What are we supposed to read? Chapter 33 to what?
Shoot.
Finish the book.
Not finish the book. No. That's too many pages. Please don't tell us to finish the book. We have 4 weeks to go.
It's hold on.
49? Says Lee.
Yes. Let's do that.
Okay, through 49 or stop at 49.
Yes, he did the math for me. Sorry, I completely forgot to do that math before we went on to the show.
So stop at 49.
No, stop at 50.
Stop at 50. Thank you.
Include 49.
Include
so
33
to 49. I'm sorry,
35. 36.
Sorry.
For this physical copy of the book that I have, this paperback, it's going to go from page 234 to 354. That's what we're reading. But why not an even 50? Because chaos. That's why. So read those.
Stop at 50. That's easy to remember.
There you go. Stop at 50. Yeah, stop at an even 50. So just keep reading and then stop at chapter 50. Don't read chapter 50. Stop right there. So 1 through 49. And Maude, what are we doing after this?
We are going to go to Geekbomb's Discord, which is a Patreon perk when we talk about playing, watching, and reading, and then going into the Voice Book Club to have a chat a little bit more about this. Come in with your questions prepared. We'd love to hit it off with a Q&A straight away. Let us hear your thoughts on it, character development. If you had like a train of thought, ask us if we're on that same page, pun intended. And I may hint towards the big thing that everyone seems to freaking miss if you want.
Was it something to do with Kvothe's parents' stories?
I mean, that's on the nose. That's
Okay, good.
100%. Yeah, like
Nerdist got
I
it right in the chat earlier.
I
Nerdist
think
got
we
it
got
right.
that.
Okay.
But there's more.
Okay.
All right. So head
Excellent.
over there. If you do want to get involved with that, patreon.com/geekbomb. Sign up to any tier. You'll get access within the Discord. We'll meet you over there straight away.
And thank you guys so much for watching Nerdist Book Club. We'll see you next week with the next section of The Name of the Wind. And then we have 4 weeks to go. And then we pick an entirely new book voted on by you. It's going to be fantastic. So we'll see you guys next week. And we'll see you over there in the Geek Bomb Discord. Come hang out. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.